here at Comic-Con. We're here at the Twitch TV live stage here as we're going to be actually showing off a pretty awesome game. I'm Alex. Joined with me is a self-confessed Dungeon Defenders fan. He has a problem, so we are going to help him here and quell his thirst for Dungeon Defenders 2. Right. Albert, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And I'm super excited right now.
All right, I mean, like, how excited? Scale to 1 to excited. How are you?
Pretty excited. I can't even get like a word to describe how excited I am.
Awesome. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and intro the guys who are going to be showing us some Dungeon Defenders. We have Brad as well as Phil coming up here, guys. How's it going?
It's great to be here, guys.
Yeah, great to have you guys.
Hey. Cool.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's get some Dungeon Defenders going on here. Okay. So we of course we have some great gameplay that we're going to be showing. But first things first, I do want to ask you guys briefly just about Dungeon Defenders 2, the fan reception here at Comic-Con, and I guess how's everything been going for you at this event?
I mean, it's been ridiculous. We didn't think people would like our game as much as they did, so we're really glad.
Voice, just how much we've been talking to people and interacting with everyone. I mean, it's been amazing watching people come by and go, I played Dungeon Defenders 1 a ton, hundreds of hours, really loved it. We can't believe it's here. I mean, the feedback has been great.
Yeah, Dungeon Defenders, the first one, had, I would say, quite a bit of success. I mean, you guys really put yourself on the map with that one. I guess what I want to know is, looking at Dungeon Defenders 2, have you guys been really listening to what the fans wanted in regards to a sequel? Has there been anything that you guys wanted to put in the game but just couldn't because the fans were like, we want a pure experience? Phil, take it away.
That's a great point. So we're developing Dungeon Defenders 2 as a MOBA-esque title for about 8 months.
Okay.
But it wasn't what people wanted to play, and it wasn't exactly what we wanted to make. So we scrapped that completely, and we restarted development about 4 months ago to make what's a real direct sequel to the first Dungeon Defenders, and it's all based on fan feedback, and we think people are going to really, really enjoy it. So we're excited to show it off.
That's always a plus. And then, of course, it is free to play as well.
Yes,
right?
it will be free to play.
How exactly are you guys going to be working with that model, the free to play model, or it's going to be based on characters, skins, things like that?
So I can't say exactly now, but the important thing is it's not going to affect the core gameplay. Yep. So our development philosophy has been, right now we're only working on core mechanics. So we're working on the combat systems, working on the defense placement, working on the strategy, working on defense and ability synergies. We're trying to get all that nailed down because we know monetization will not affect that at all. In terms of what we're actually doing, we have a ton of really creative ideas. I don't want to share all of them now, but I'll talk a little bit. The mission structure of the game is going to change a lot from the first game. It's no longer going to be just a list of missions. It's going to be more active and dynamic and involve the entire community choosing what they want to play, and that's going to affect how we develop the game. So
all right, well, you know what? I think enough talk. It's time to hop into some gameplay here. Let's go ahead and check out Dungeon Defenders 2. We have a live stage demo here for you guys to enjoy in the venue and, of course, at home. Now, Albert, you are a huge fan of Dungeon Defenders. What is one feature that you were looking in specific to return into this game?
So the first one, I played hundreds and hundreds of hours on it. Right? It is just because I thought it was just the tower defense game, but the RPG structure in it just makes the game like awesome because like the items that you can gather, you can level up and like strategize your stats so that you can like specialize yourself, like what you're gonna do depending on like the missions and stuff.
Okay, great. And what are we taking a look at here, Brad?
So right now I'm building defenses on this lane. You'll see we've actually revamped how you know where the enemies are coming from. So you'll notice the eye of the old ones out there that shows you this is exactly where they're going to come down your lanes. And we have really cool new effects that tell you exactly how the enemies are going to walk through the space and where you should put your defenses. And me and the apprentice are blocking this lane so when the enemies come down, they can't reach our core over here that we're trying to protect, this west gate block.
Okay, very cool. So
now you'll notice another change we've made in Dungeon Defenders 2. In the first game, whenever you were placing a tower, you actually locked into position. You couldn't move. And one of the things we were really looking at in the new version is revamping how you felt the action aspect of our game. You wanted you to be able to move around, engage in combat differently, not feel like you were rooted whenever you were doing something. So when I place a tower, I actually can move around while I'm doing things. I'm not stuck. When I change the direction, all of that happens with your motion still unlocked. If I'm repairing something in combat, that repair action doesn't stop me from being able to use my abilities, fight enemies as they're going down the lanes. So there's we experimented with a lot of different ways to try that, and we found that gamers really liked when you could move more instead of restricting them and locking them into place.
So do you guys have stopped those wacky contraptions like the bowling ball tower?
Oh yeah. So you'll see this guy right here in a minute when we get into the wave. This is our frostbite tower. It actually shoots at enemies with ice and then encases them in giant cubes of ice. So you actually can see them freeze and turn these giant blocks right in front of your screen. It's really rewarding.
That's awesome. That actually looks pretty cool there. I can't wait to see that one in action, of course. So right now you guys are setting up.
Yep.
Getting ready for the onslaught of enemies to come through here. What is a particular favorite new addition in Dungeons Defenders 2 for you?
Well, one of the things that we did that I think is absolutely amazing is that now your abilities and your towers can actually interact with each other. So in the first game, when you used an ability or when a tower was interacting, it just kind of did its own thing. It didn't have any kind of interplay between the other elements. But when I was talking about that frostbite tower before, when he freezes his enemies and puts them in ice cubes, they are in a certain state where an apprentice can use a cyclone ability, which is like a tornado, and it will knock the enemies up in the air. And when that ice cube falls, it shatters and kills the enemy instantly. So being an ice cube changes the way your ability affects it. And it's a really cool addition. The Huntress actually has an oil flask, and she throws the oil flask on an enemy, covers them in oil, they get a debuff, they move slower. But if my apprentice's fire turret, his fireburst tower hits the guy when his oil flask is on him, he'll actually burst into flames. He'll have a persistent DPS dot going on. It's just another cool way to see these abilities and towers interact. It changes the cooperative gameplay a lot, and I think it's a lot of fun.
But is there any other examples other than that? Because like on the first one, I made the monk first.
Yeah.
And the aura didn't seem to work as itself, right? And then the knight usually had one of the best towers because they had everything like the wall, and then you can put the bowling tower on top of a cliff. And since it's like a splash damage, or like since it does damage in a line, you can probably clear most of the dungeon with just like a high level knight.
Yeah.
And that kind of made the game a little linear. But as of now, like it seems like the towers are working each other, so it's gonna put a next level on a teamwork, I guess.
It does. We were talking about the monk specifically. So he has a Skyguard tower which shoots air units, and it's very, very powerful against air units. But if you see over here, I actually can show it to you. It's sitting right here waiting for those wyverns to come out. But if the orcs happen to get up there, that same cyclone ability can knock ground units up in the air, and that Skyguard tower will start attacking them. So before, it found out like, you had one tower that was really your go-to, is what you use to get a certain thing done. Now these combinations work really well to make the gameplay a lot more interesting. Yeah, you can see them flying in the air. It's also the cannonball tower. If they're frozen, if the cannon hits them, they also shatter. Right. So all the different interactions really make it very engaging.
It's actually pretty cool.
So have you made any changes to the heroes themselves? Like new abilities?
Yes. So I'll show you a couple of those here. So the Squire has a new ability called the Sword Beam. We wanted to give him a range attack, something he can use to hit air units. So if I'll just do this, you can show you. He can hit this Sword Beam that'll go right through a lane, damage everyone in the line. Really, really powerful and really cool. He also has an ability called Provoke. It's right here. He bashes his shield. He pulls all the enemies towards him, so you can use that to get him off of a tower or get him off of a critical objective. And he gets an incredible armor buff. So when he's from Provoke stance, he's not going to die. He can take a lot of damage. I actually think you saw the Cyclone ability before. There's actually an old mainstay that came back for the Apprentice. He has his Mana Bomb. It's an incredibly revamp on the art style. Looks really, really powerful. I think Phil can probably show it to you really quick.
You looking at me?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. One of the actual big changes that we made in the game were to the visual effects. They're actually all 2D flipbook style now, so you notice it's a lot more clear, and I think it adds a lot to the style of the game. Pay attention.
Oh, so wait, what was that effect of it? Is it like a different type of wall over there? There was like the carriage was on fire. This one right here.
Oh yeah, so you gotta take away some of my thunder actually. This is another new feature that we added into Dungeons & Defenders 2. Now we have environmental traps. You can actually interact with the environment and use that to complement your defenses. So right here, there's this dynamite charge. You can see all the little dynamite there, and the enemies are walking down the lanes. I'll just blow it up so you can see it. If I hit this, all the explosions happen, and they're going to damage the guys coming down. So it gives you that, oh my gosh, I have something really big coming on. All these orcs are coming down. I can drop that dynamite trap and blow them up right in the lane.
Okay. So it adds like another element to like.
Yeah, it keeps from getting overwhelmed too much. And I guess what was like the one bit of feedback from the community looking at the first Dungeon Defenders? What was that one bit of feedback that they told you, like, hey, for the next one, this is what we want? Like, what was that number one most requested feature by the fans?
I mean, I think there were a lot of them. The obvious one is going to be people don't want people to be able to hack. And that's one of the big reasons that we're going free to play. It was a huge issue on XBLA and PC for the first game, and it was something that you can't fix with a not online game.
Yeah.
So this one, we fixed that issue. I think that's going to be a huge thing for fans.
Okay. So we have the next phase coming up here. And see, Albert is a huge Dungeon Defenders fan. I have played a couple of times here, so if I actually did this, I would get smashed. I think I'd just get destroyed. My thing is always, I'm a big fan of story. What is the story this time around in Dungeon Defenders 2, in comparison to 1, like continuation, like what's the deal?
So it's a continuation. You'll actually see on this map that this is the castle that our young heroes grew up in the first game.
Okay.
Their parents left and they accidentally unleashed an ancient evil.
Okay.
And they had to fight it back before they returned to the castle. But now in the second game, you're actually leaving the castle and going out into the world of Etheria. The old ones, which you fought in the first game, have now invaded the entire land. And it's up to you and your friends to take it back.
Okay, cool. So I'm glad there's that story element there. You're just tearing apart these goblins. Not even fair.
Yeah. So one other cool thing that we've done, we really wanted to make sure that the visual feedback to the player is really rewarding in Dungeon Defenders 2. So we actually have put some effort into making every upgrade level on the tower unique and interesting. So you'll see here, we've already upgraded this guy once. He's level 2. Looks pretty menacing, right? Looks like a really cool tower. But watch this. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up to level 3. These all new animations, whole new effects. So you can really see when you're looking out through all your defenses, man, here's where my really powerful towers that I've invested in are. Here's where the ones that I still need to grow up. It really adds that feedback to make you feel strong and in control of your environment in a different way.
None's getting past those towers.
That's right.
None. Awesome.
So, have you guys changed anything on the item section of the game? Because the first version, the most time I've spent was collecting items and upgrading them.
Yeah.
And that took hours and hours and hours. And it seems like later on, the Huntress gets one of the best weapons, whereas they fire like 5 projectiles at once. I think the name was Wolfenstein, I think. And that just blows everything away. I don't even need towers. So that kind of mechanic really made me like, oh, I want to get the best item, gives everything to all the stats.
Yeah.
Is there that kind of mechanic in this game?
So I think that's actually a really interesting question. So one of our main pillars of development for the sequel is that the role-playing, the tower defense, and the RPG elements are going to be directly intertwined. So in the first game, you had role-playing that you did in the tavern, you leveled up your hero, you bought items, you had strategy that you did during the build phase when you set up all your defenses, and then you had action that you did in the combat phase. But in this game, you get to do all of them at the same time. So I'll give you a couple examples and then return to your question. So for example, this level itself, we talked about a few minutes ago that the old ones were invading and you had to fight them back. So we've actually now intertwined story into the game mechanics itself. What we're doing is we're defending this main gate lock over here. And if the incoming hordes destroy the main gate lock, then they storm your castle from the original game and you lose. So no longer are you just defending Eternia crystals. We also have these sub-objectives here. These are the west gate lock and, the east gate lock is actually under attack. And what these do is they're not just, a loss condition. If you lose them, you don't lose the match. But what happens is that another lane will open up. So actually their gate that corresponds to them opens up and the enemies come in and you'll have to deal with another lane of enemies. Now, going back to your question, so how does all of this, work with loot? So the tower defense and the strategy, the action, is going to be more directly intertwined to what you're wearing. So I'll give you an example that has to do with the trait system. In Dungeon Defenders 2, there's frost damage. And when things are frozen, if they get dealt smashing damage, they'll actually shatter instantaneously. So a great example could be the Squire would have a frost sword that you can find. Now let's imagine if you find the most legendary, awesome, powerful frost sword, the one that everyone wants, right? This freezes enemies in one hit. So that could completely change how you want to set up a map. Because before you had this gear, you played a certain way, but now you can freeze every enemy you hit. So maybe instead you're going to place a ton of cannonball towers everywhere, right? And instead you want to deal smashing damage to the enemies. Or, even different, maybe you want to have the monk, he has an ability called Chi Blast, where he force pushes enemies. So maybe you want to set up the entire level so enemies are kind of mazed with blockades onto ledges, and then the monk can force push them off. So now you're not just strategizing in the build phase about what you need your setup to be and then entering the combat phase and ignoring it. You're actually going to be strategizing in the build phase about how you want to fight in the combat phase. And in the combat phase, you're going to be working with that strategy to fight back the enemies.
So in addition to phases, I really love the hardcore mode of the first one, where you have you're timed instead of like waiting as much as you want. Is that still in here?
We're not talking about too much of that stuff yet, but yes, there will be a lot of different modes, and there will be, I will put it this way, there will be plenty of a challenge for you in this game. So right now we're playing the Comic-Con build, and it's actually easier than our internal dev build. At our last playtest, we do a playtest every Friday with the entire studio. Actually, not a single group beat the map. So we're like, oh crap, we gotta tone it down a little bit. So yeah, it will be difficult.
But like the challenges were definitely one of the most beautiful thing on the first one, because it was just hard, and it gives you the thing that, I could have made this better, or we should have fought better, right? As a team, because you have limited time, so. Or they get into some arguments too.
Yeah, fight with each other, yell, scream. I mean, so then what I am interested to hear is there's a diverse roster of characters, and you guys are expanding that roster to 24 characters. How is there like a symmetry between the characters? Like, if someone does something that can affect another person's ability, is that something you guys looked into? I guess, especially adding in more characters, how has that affected gameplay?
So yeah, there's actually a lot of that. So first of all, we did announce 24 characters previously when we were doing a MOBA, but that's no longer the case. We don't know exactly how many heroes there will be, but contrary to what we were doing before, we're really focused on exploring how these heroes interact with the tower defense aspects of the game, and what makes range DPS character for tower defense, or what makes a support class for a tower defense game. So because of that, we are going to have less heroes, but they're going to be more robust and have a lot larger kits. In terms of their synergy, yes, we have that in spades. So I'll just give you an example. Maybe I can actually go do one over here. So for example, the Huntress has a geyser trap, which you can see here, which is making these enemies splash up and go into the air. Now when they splash up, they're actually getting dealt, they're actually being drenched, so that weakens them. And then you can see that the monk has set up behind this barricade a Skyguard tower. Oh, it's about to die. Crap, hold on. I will repair it. So the Skyguard tower is actually only anti-air. It's the most powerful tower we have in the game right now. But when these enemies are getting bounced up by the geyser trap, they get hit by the Skyguard tower. So there's defense to defense and defense to ability synergies between all the different classes and within a class. And then that will also extend to gear. So the gear is going to change how you can interact with those synergies and the people you're playing with.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's something we take into heart every time we design a new hero. We sit there and think through, how do we want this hero to interact? What role are they playing?
Yeah.
What kind of things are fun for you to do when you're playing with someone else? I mean, people love Dungeon Defenders because you play with your friends. It's an enjoyable game to play with other people. We had so many people on the Comic-Con floor coming up tonight going, I play this with my brother, or I play this with my two friends from whatever, or I play this with my parents, or whatever it might be. A whole bunch of different ranges of people wanted to play together. So thinking through how you can amplify that by having that interplay, we think people are just going to love it. They can coordinate differently. It's not just about the strategy, which is also a lot of fun. It's about how you can work together inside the game.
Right.
Yeah, because you can do some pretty ridiculous things. I can only imagine with the combinations of towers and characters. I did like that prop up with the anti-air stuff. That was cool, man. And seeing it in motion actually was kind of sweet. So
it was great.
Yeah, now I know exactly what I'm going to do when I play. Just going to pop people up in the air nonstop.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that we're really adding into this game. So, in the first game there wasn't a lot of CC in terms of being able to move the enemies around, and it's interesting because that's one of the most fun things to do in a tower defense game. They're coming down the lane, what if you can switch enemies between lanes, right?
Yeah.
And then how does that work for a third-person action game? Or what if you can, put enemies up into the air at a different level? So we're playing with verticality and moving people between lanes and trying to make that how you play is one of the things that we're working on.
Right.
It's always very important. Always important for that variety and spice of life.
And it looks great.
Term. It's true.
So another thing that I'll point out that we did differently here that kind of goes into changing up the strategy of the game. So in the first game, you had the Etheria crystals, and you had to protect those. And if any of them died, that was game over.
Right.
Well, we decided we wanted to revamp that a little bit and add a new mix into the game. So now you have objectives and sub-objectives. The objective in this map right now is our main gate lock. If that drops, those gates open, the evil ones, hordes, stream in, and that's it. Yeah. But over here, we have sub-objectives. We had that lock I was talking about before, the west gate lock, and then we have the one that's already died, the east gate lock. And when that falls, that new lane opens up, it changes the whole strategy. So you had this tension moment where you're like, oh man, I don't want to lose this thing. It's a big deal. But if you lose it, you don't lose. You get another lane that opens up. And that really, again, it's another way to mix the gameplay up and really change how players can approach that normal basic strategy and find different ways. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of Dungeons & Defenders fans wanted to find the perfect way to play that map. And now there's different ways to do that perfect way. Like, for example, it could be fun to let both of them die in the first wave, and then you got to figure out how to deal with all of that madness.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, we got 2 new waves open, let's see what happens.
Yes.
We actually had some guys on the floor that were like, wait, you can do that? And they lost it on purpose, and they just wanted to see how it went.
Yeah.
And that just, it's the game that you want to play, how you want to play it. It's a lot of fun that way.
The game do get out of control sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you got to get it back in control. With your towers.
Right.
That's
your
right.
towers. Yeah. Oh, so just curious, kid. Like the first one, can you switch characters in game?
So that's something that we're still talking about. We're still right now focused on the core game experience and how it's going to play and how we're going to have all the different synergies work together. But to be honest, we're leaning towards yes.
Okay. Because on the first one, most of us used to have all 4 characters all spec'd up, and let's say for a Squire, you based all the stats on the tower energy, so that he only builds walls.
Right.
And then you switch to the Apprentice real fast, and his towers are like maximum attack and range, so that every one of us had the best things, and then we focus on one thing.
Someone already used it.
You already used it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to recharge.
You did it to yourself, dude.
It'd be really helpful right now, actually. You can see these armored orcs, man. They take a beating.
They're relentless here. I was going to say, yeah, go to the Diamond. Oh, wait a minute.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
That was good. There you go. The value of resource management. You do not want to do things foolishly, especially for live stage demos, because then you can get knocked down to 281 health, and you could very well be taken out. You got to heal.
Yeah,
okay, there you go. That's good. It's good.
But
Hey, can we get people to come to the main gate?
Yeah.
Thank you.
These small icons over here.
Oh yeah, these icons. That's actually for the secondary. So that objective actually went down.
Yeah.
So that means that tower is going to... So now you guys are in a world of hurt here. This is... Before it was like, hey, we're going to casually explain to you guys, but now the armored dudes come out of nowhere with the giant hammers, and this isn't good. So now it's time to get down to brass tacks here. How are you guys going to deal with this?
It's kind of funny. You're right. We're sitting there talking. All of a sudden, the game just out of control.
Yeah. We were talking about out of control, and then there you have it. Game just gets insane. And they broke through your puny walls there, so that's not good. Ice towers are looking pretty good, though.
All right, here we go. We're going to use the rockets here.
Nice. Yeah, we should use those for the those guys there. Shoot them with the rockets.
Yep.
Yes.
There we go.
So another thing that you guys will actually notice that we changed from the first game is that we've done a lot of improvements to the combat systems. We wanted to once again, amp up the action. Still keep it hack and slash, but remove the lawnmower effect from the first game and add actual root motion and combos and air attacks in. And then also we've done the same for the ranged character. So if you notice with the Apprentice, that you can actually get headshots now, and that will stun enemies. So there's a lot more strategy to how you're actually playing during the action phase as opposed to just attacking enemies.
Okay.
But I just love these ice cubes just playing.
Monk, heal. Heal us, Monk. Heal.
Combination of those powers.
Heal.
I think that's really cool, just being able to like place, you know, the ice beam there and the ice tower, just freezing them out and then lifting them up.
All right.
There you go.
That was a little tense.
It was getting there, man. It was. The armored dude started to come out. It wasn't good for anyone, but that was awesome. That really was fun to check out. So again, I have to ask, you know, you've had people here at the convention playing the game.
Yeah.
Right? And you mentioned one particular story of the guy just letting the towers collapse, or the two objectives collapse, and then some objectives. Any other crazy stories like that have happened?
Well, one thing that's been really fun is to watch guys who had never played the game before come up, play it once, and then come back 7 or 8 times and play it over and over and over again. And we had this one group of kids that were just coming in, and they would bring their friends along the next day.
Yeah.
They were there at the very beginning of the show, playing it. They wanted to try hard mode. They wanted to try all the different heroes, and it was just really fun watching all that happen. We had another experience where there was a family. It was a mother, a father, and 2 kids. And the 2 kids were gamers. They were younger, but they were gamers. And the mom and dad never really played games, you could tell. So they're running around trying to play. And the mom was playing the Huntress. And you could tell she didn't really feel comfortable moving. So she kind of sat behind, like she was like right here in the core playing the Huntress. And she sat there and just mowed everyone down with the bow and arrow. And like the kids are going in there and they're dying, and they had all the lanes open. It was the 5th wave and all of them are coming in. The core is down to like 400 health, and she's like Legolas style from Lord of the Rings, just nailing everyone. And it goes down to 200 health, and they're all screaming, and she's like keeping her cool and killing them, and they win. And they're all, and I'm going, you guys realize, right? Your mom saved that game. Like, she's the reason why you still won. And it was fun watching all those moments happen. You know, the way the game changes as it plays and evolves, how the tension builds up, and then how even players from different skill levels can make a difference based on how they play. Different styles work, different approaches work, and that's just really, it's fun to watch.
Well, you know what, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad people here at the con are enjoying it. But you know what, as much as I love to check out this game, you know, we're going to have to close this one out here. But I guess the thing I'm curious is where people can find Dungeon Defenders. You guys have a beta planned. What's the support going to be in that regard, you know, for, I guess, going into the release of the game?
Yeah, so actually, people should go to our website, DungeonDefenders2.com. We have a blog there. It's a development blog, so they'll get up-to-date information on what we're working on, be able to give us feedback. The game is going to soft launch in spring of 2014.
Okay.
So that's when it's kind of the big unveiling will happen. But before then, we're actually going to do something really interesting at the end of October. It's going to be the start of really getting the community involved in the game's development itself. So I'd have people stay tuned for that.
Wow, that's awesome stuff. Albert, any last words?
He wants to play.
I just
He just wants to play. That's all he wants to do.
Every couple minutes he's like, can I jump in? Can I jump in?
Well, guys, Albert, thank you so much for joining me here, and to you guys as well, thank you so much. And
Thanks
as
a
well
lot.
to the guys on the side, we have Ice and Daniel that were helping us out here, so big thank you to you guys as well. But guys, definitely check out Dungeon Defenders 2. It's going to be coming out pretty soon, and we'll see you guys in just a little bit.